Today I'm actually into the garden. I am doing some regulation today. Checking through my plantings, figs, cutting off the old leaves, the defective leaves like this one that you're seeing right there, and also the others. So stay with my channel to make sure that if you have planting production, of which I do have, then you can actually know how to go about keeping them, regulating them, and continuing the process. So as I continue back into today's farming, I have give my farming a little bit of rest. So recently, I have cut onto the ground. We have did some cutting. It was really bushy here, so we had to do a cleanup. And what I can say from my last experience with the cleanup is that if you looking to clean your planting trees, do not let them reach the stage that I had made them reach before, right? It was my time was out of schedule, so I actually didn't have the time to do any big set of clean. But if you do has a farm, you're running planting figs, it's actually good to, even if the land is bushy, it's good to keep just the stool of the planting cleaned. So if you pay close attention to that stool here, this planting stool is the stool that I actually had mold up. I have used most of my mold from around. If you can take a closer look, you can see that there's a ditch right in that area here, and then there's a higher bank up there. So I've mold up, which gives me plenty of plants, which is not 100% good for if you're doing plantings or if you're doing figs or farming in the long-term crop basis, right? So there are places where I did got a few bunch of planting already. These three here, one here, two, and the other one can go for plants. So I do have to do some transplanting, continue filling up the area with the figs. So as I continue within the video, I will be using my knife, right? So I use a knife because the cutlass is cut to the ground and they're picking up all types of um, infections. So I wanted to use a special knife that I'm going to be using to cut off the old leaves like this. So you know, once they cut too many leaves off, but you want to cut the leaves off that is going to cause a threat to the tree. And when you cut it off, you want to keep it away from the stool. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. And if you have just come into the video, you're new, you're into farming, you may love farming, but you don't got a drive, I can see, to continue going, then we're on the same page. So perfect stool is going to look like the leaf green. Also, it shouldn't be too crowded. As I said, I need to remove off some plants, so it should be free enough so that when the breeze blows, it don't affect any of the trees. So I'm going to continue regulating. I'm going to show you how I regulate, what strategies do I use, what strategies I'm about to use, because I have to recuperate back the stools. I have to recuperate back every stuff here. I believe this should be a grindy and not a planting tree because I've had a mixed up. But this one here should be a planting tree. Sits on very good soil here. So I'm in play for a very, very nice huge planting here, I guess. This is the size of the tree stump. I didn't think it's a giant, but It grows really tough. So I'm making sure that I'm regulating the trees. This tree I can say is struggling a bit, but I'm gonna leave it there because I got a more powerful plant coming here. Also in this stool here, there is too many small trees here. So for surety, I'll have to remove some of those. So this one here. So it's always good to pass through, regulate, keep them regulating. And if you do have the time, most of the trees that is not looking to 100%, you can rip them off. So like in this stool here where the trees are not looking at 100, I can take them off. But now I'm not going to take them off. Just going to cut off the extra leaves, let them dry, because I will have to do another cleaning up around this area. So we're going to make sure that there's no deficiency that can overtake the trees. Which is going to be very essential for your planting trees. Let's make sure there is no place for insect to come and leave and feel like they have a home here. So getting them off is one good method of controlling. Other persons do spraying and so forth to help the leaves be more stable. All right. So I do got 2 figs there. That has been throwing. So the more you give them that spacing, as you're gonna see the beauty of your garden. It's gonna show you that ongoing results. Okay. So I'm gonna make sure that I cut off all leaves that is threatening. So I may have to sharpen this. Usually, if you take a close look, there are going to be insects underneath the leaf sheets. So it's also good to do a cleaning of the leaf sheets. If you have the time, one time, helps regulate plants, keep them into a good spot. So also with this tree, and one thing again, it's good to pay attention to your garden. So if you check it out, this tree has a lean. Ever since it's been planted, it has a lean, but now it's leaning way too much. So I do have something that I'm going to be using to prop it up. So I'm not going to let it fall. Also, in this piece of land, there is an advantage and a disadvantage, which is like within this garden, I can have good solid um, foundation here when it comes to plants. Okay, because what we got here is I got a little bit of a rock mix there and soil, so it's like kind of a cliffy soil. So with that soil, I'm getting good anchorage for the plantings. Um, I may not get holes in all of this stuff, like holes to put plants, because if you've checked, I would have loved to put it into a sequence in rows, but now they're a little bit kind of scattered abroad. So if you check this one, you're gonna see that these sets are kind of in alignment out of the lineage because of the places that fell, and I couldn't get the earth to actually put the plants in the perfect rows. But if you're planting and you love to see your plants in sequence, as long as that there is no object to block it off, it should be something nice that I do. Keep them into a nice sequented place. So let the light come through. As I said, look for the branches that is actually affected, and try your best to keep that off. So they say don't leave it into the stool. Give the stool light. Give the place a little bit of air to pass through. So they're looking so far so good. All in these areas here, that is. Smaller. And free. Gonna have to put some plants here. Transplanting too, so it's not that hard, and I always recommend that persons who's doing farming as beginners, I always recommend beginners start with these type of plants, right? because I find it's way easier. It's a learning process so that you can see, you can learn from, and then from there, you can try the shortcuts afterwards. It's a long-term investment, yes. It's gonna take more time to give you an income rather than starting with the short-term crops. The only reason why I said that you should start with something like this is because of the labor, right? If you're doing short-term crop, you're gonna have to do plenty of crops to make sure that you have enough. But if you're doing long-term crops, it doesn't require that much of attention like this. But the only thing that you're gonna have to do is make sure that the place is regulated. It can be once every 3 weeks, once every month based on the weather condition. When there are more sun, the bushes are going to tend to grow slower. But when there are more rain, then the bushes are going to grow faster. So it's going to be even better into that format, right? Where you're going to make sure that that's a tree I had here that were giving some problems in terms of rooting. And now it has rooted and it's looking perfectly fine. So normally when the branches are actually thrown off like this, we get rid of this. But I still see that there's a hand there that may come through, so I'm gonna give it some time to see if it's gonna come through, and if it's not, I'm gonna have to cut off that navel. So the reason for we cutting off the navel into the plant, into the crop, sorry, is because of the navel sometimes holds too much of the food. So when we cut off the navel, we give the planting enough time to, the fruit itself enough time to get the nutrients and be bigger. But when we leave it, sometimes the navels get long because all the food goes through there and the plantings are going to stay small. So far they're looking a little bit great. I also am looking to give them their manure because we're getting a little rain. I did give them some manure already, but I'm going to give them another dose because I've given the hair a cleanup. But before I give it a dose, I'm going to give it a second cleanup because the first cleanup was really high. Bushes were very high and it was tough to clean it off. So the second cleanup, I'm going to be cleaning up and then I'm going to be raking that stuff. And it's also good to rake the garden, rake off all the bushes that is into the garden. So it gives the bushes a clear picture. It gives the land a clear picture of receiving sunlight onto the soil. Okay. So this is what it is. The garden has run all the way up to the top, but I don't have much of a plantings or figs at the top, but I have more of my plants at this stage here. So when I take a look at it, as I said, the first stage were one of the hardest stage where I had to get the plants off the ground. And as I said from my earlier videos in farming, that the plants that I took off from my partner, he was actually going out of this type of farming and he was getting into short crop farming. So he had spent less time caring for certain trees. So he had kept back certain personal trees that he needed and certain trees that he didn't want. He wanted to get rid of. He decided that he would have just left them there. So when I got the plants, most of the plants were not healthy plants. So I had to make the plants healthy by getting some of the salt manures, putting into the stools, because the land will actually rest for some time. Nothing has ever grown here more than cocoa trees and stuff like that. So the land has never been cultivated. So I was not sure as to what these are insects that come to the garden. You have to keep in mind for. They're gonna live there into the leaf sheets. So it's always good to clean the leaf sheets so that they don't find no homes. So as I was saying, in his section of it, the plants were, as I said, not to 100, and also the soil. The land was a newly piece of land that are going to be cultivated into crops, like not crops but planting trees. So I had to make sure that the soil was already aerated enough for planting. So give them some salt, as I said, to help with the rooting system from bacteria, fungicides, whatsoever that may develop into the soil that I don't have a notice of until some of the trees that has been grown have withered away. So I've lost some trees in all what I've planted. I've lost some trees, but now I'm into the stage right now where I can remove off most of my plants and I can get to put plants in different areas. So I'm looking at some collaborations, and one thing that I can say also, if you're doing farming on a large scale or you want to go big with farming, right, and you has a lot of land space, don't try to take it on all by yourself. Try to actually get some collaborations. If you can get good collaborations to come join with you, do businesses together. These were some of my mistakes. I can see what I have made in farming, doing a lot of different farming at the same time. Whenever you don't have time, most of your businesses are going to be have to put on hold because you don't have persons to continue running those stuff for you. So if you looking to get into farming, you love farming, you have one piece of land that's maybe 4 or 5 acres, you want to work that. If you're just starting and you cannot be employed, you can start something for yourself. Take a portion that you can handle. Don't rush it, okay? Because even though I'm young, I've got some experience in farming because I've done a lot of farming. And sooner or later, I'll be getting back into doing farming. But the way that I used to farm before, I'm not going to be farming that way anymore. So, as I said, this piece of garden where I'm here right now, the only thing that's standing is this tree. This is a plum tree. It's a Chinese plum tree. I could have got rid of it, but I decided to leave it here. Um, the mango tree, I would have had to get rid of the mango trees. Even this big tree, I would have had to get rid of this big tree. But in the process, when I started, the garden were full of cocoa trees. So there are still stumps, like between here, you can see cocoa stumps there. There are also one between those dashing leaves there. It were pure cocoa trees and hardwood trees. So I had to cut the trees down, clear the garden. So I can say the garden was something like this spot over there. Let me just show you. So the garden was something like this piece of land is over there, cocoa trees. But the cocoa trees actually didn't have any, we didn't have the book for it. Because when you have to sell it in our country, you have to have the proper documents to sell it. So there wasn't any book, um, and it weren't much cocos, even if I did leave back a few so that we can make our own local cocoa ball at our home. Not for sale, but just for our home use. So I've left back a few trees, didn't cut them all, and I've started cultivating the garden. So these were work that I did before, and I had to. Most of the jobs that were done here were actually done by hand cutting with cutlasses, because the trees was not that big. The stumps were not that thick. If I can show you this stump here, So this was one of the stump of a cocoa tree that were here before I started the process. So I can say there were even another one right here also that you seen. There were some other hard trees between um, the midst of there, and there were a few other cocoa trees that were down on the side, even this one here. So I had to actually do some heavy work here. This is not the garden that I've done the heaviest work in, but I have done some heavy work into the past. And that's why if I'm encouraging young persons to do farming, I can say like take your time and see if you can get a collaboration. If you want to get into farming, try to get someone that you can collab with so that the job doesn't get too difficult for you at certain times. So it's like I were actually managing over one, two, three, four pieces of garden, and the worst thing is that I've gotten the gardens from scratch. And when I said I've gotten the gardens from scratch, I mean the gardens were like this: big trees, um, hardwood trees, all different types of trees, and I had to cut it down, get it to a residential spot like this, and also I had to move off the stuff myself because I wanted to plant right away. So I had to move off all the trees that I cut. Even after I cut the trees down, I had to clear the land like this now with cutlass. So I had to have cutlass and I had to cut all these gardens. This one, there's another one on top of there. There's a bigger one higher up, and then there is another one right up to the top. Not right up to the top, but to the, I can use the main road to go to it. It's not difficult. The gardens are not difficult because they're close to the main. But the problem was I had put in too many work at one time. So the last garden on top, I had um, what should I say? I had bamboo stools to burn. So this was one of the hardest piece of work that I've done. And after I have did that work, I had to rest. So this is why I haven't been posting many videos with farming and so forth, because I had total breakdown from all that kind of hard work. Um, Bamboo stools are one of the craziest thing here to get rid of. There were certain strategies that I could have used, but at the time I wanted to plant right away, so I had to get rid of the stool. So I had to use tires, I had to use fire, I had to burn, I had to throw tire, burn, throw bamboo, burn. It wasn't an easy work. It was one of the hardest work I ever do in my life. And the good thing about it now is that the job's already done. So if I decide to do some farming, which I'm planning my businesses this year for the following year coming, please the Lord, if I live to see, um, want to have everything in a way that the way that I'm going to do it is not going to affect my health. So for here, as you see, here has established itself. If you check here, this is a planting tree, right? And there's many suckers around here. So when I'm transplanting, I'm going to be hitting most of the plantings first because they actually throw faster than the figs. So I'm going to make sure I find good spots, transplant the plantings first, and then I'm going to take it from any other spots that I have left off where I cannot take more plants from the stools of planting trees. Then I'm going to be using the figs to back it up. So it's not an easy business. It's not a business that I can take for a ride. Also, it's not a business that is easy, right? It's a tough business. As long as you want to get into farming, it's never an easy decision. It's never an easy business. It's always a tough business. So with this business, I can clearly state to myself that the work was worth it. I had the passion, the drive, everything for the job, right? So when I were doing the work, I put it out my effort into doing the work. But as I was saying, if he doesn't have anyone to help with the process, then it can be a tough decision. And the best part about this is whenever you plant, you can come and take off a branch anytime you're ready. Also, this is not the only bunch that I got here. Also got another bunch up there, and there's another one higher. But before all of the plants establish themselves, I want to make sure I pass here as quick as possible, as early as possible, and come and do some transplanting and fill off the rest of areas and have plenty of figs planting. And I may make some tanya banks in between and keep the place here running at an ease. So they're not looking bad. They're looking really, really proper. I just haven't given them some caring, but as I said, I'm still on a bit of a rest. So I have to take some rest with all of the work that I did before. And it weren't a joke work. It was real hard work that I did. And I'm so happy that I was young to actually see what it does. So if anyone is actually getting into farming, I can give them, they can check out my channel and feel happy about it, I guess, as much, and see what was the whole outcome and what can happen if you don't take care of yourself when you're farming. So I'm also into animals, also into doing sheep and goats, which you may see I have up onto my farm videos where I have sheep and goats. So I also got these, and I'm going to be looking to get into some cows very soon. So all the gardens that I've worked hard in, that I cannot farm in anymore, that take a toll on my body, I've decided to do it in a smarter way. And I'm so happy that I've gotten all the gardens on the ground, make sure that they're cleaned, make sure all the big trees are cut off. So any day I decided to do any business, they're already at the point of just getting them cleaned up and starting what I have to start. So that is what I have to say for this video. I hope it brings inspiration to a lot of young persons who's getting into farming, who has the urge to go for it. If you has the urge, it's a good thing, but don't pressure the urge, okay? Whenever you need the rest, take the rest. Because I used to say to myself that if I work from 6 in the morning to 11 in the day, I'm gonna bathe, eat, I'm gonna sit to watch a little TV or something, and then I'm gonna get up from there if I see a farming video on YouTube, and I'm gonna head into my garden and I'm going to work until 6 in the afternoon. So I used to be working straight, but I decided to change that options and make a better point of myself by not trying to do too much. So this is a very powerful plant here. If you can take a look, very nice, powerful planting plant. Based on the bunch that it's going to give me, I'm going to take off plants from it, and I'm going to leave back one there to continue the race. But so far, it's a huge stemmed plant, and it's really tall. very tough, very promising. So if it's maybe one of the giant plants, I'm not sure. I think my partner had gave me one of the plants. He said that they were a very good species. So if it's a giant, then I'm gonna try to field transplant as much as I can do from this plant. Get it going, continue transplanting. So that is how it situates here. The fix can stay for a while because I may be using a part of it to do what I want to do. So that is how it goes for the garden. And when I'm fully back in swing with the gardens, because I'm just waiting on my cows to start the second portion of my business and expand my livestock businesses. But when I get the cows and I set up the areas that I want them to be in, and I have everything under control, then I'm going to come back. I'm going to be hitting back multiple videos every day on what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, and also the experiences that I had before and why I'm doing it different right now. So everything is set up, the gardens are there. I have the necessary tools and equipments to get the jobs done. So now it's just time for me to start building up on production. So that was it for today. And as I said from this video, in this live stream, if you're new to the channel and you have inspiration for farming, you haven't subscribed to my channel, it's going to be very great to help the channel out, because this information can help someone else who may want to get into farming at a very young age. So I'm in my 20s and I'm doing farming very hard. So if you want to do it too and you find some motivation within my channel, you subscribe to my channel, you see my videos, it's best to subscribe, start a channel also, shout me out into the comments, show me the name of your channel, tell me the name of your channel, whatsoever you want to do, and I'm gonna support your channel because I know we all are out here making content and we want to someday rise above the events and see the hard work that we have put in come to in reality. So that is what it is for now, and I'm gonna be seeing you in my other videos and live streams.